Peace, my people. And as an editorial uh, opinion, before I even get started here, I would like to say that if you have any, uh, comments or whatever, just say like if you have likes, dislikes, I welcome all those. But when it comes down to it, if you dislike me for whatever reason, then I guess the best thing to do is to not log into my web page, or if you have a difference of opinion, I welcome those differences of opinion, but I will not be coerced to stop anything or to go in a different direction from what I'm going right now, because this is my show. So if you don't like my show, you can just do your show. All right, going right ahead. I like to say that this right here is a real weird story. It's a Florida man was shot and killed his son-in-law in a case of mistaken identity. Pensacola, Florida. A Florida man will not face charges after authorities said he accidentally shot and killed his son-in-law, who had just flown into the U.S. from Norway as a birthday surprise. The tragic case of mistaken identity occurred around 11:30 p.m. Tuesday at a home in Gulf Breeze, said Santa Rosa County Sheriff Bob Johnson at a Thursday press conference. Johnson said that Richard Dennis, 61, of Gulf Breeze, shot and killed 37-year-old Christopher Bergen, who was married to Dennis's daughter. Bergen had flown from Norway to surprise his father-in-law for his birthday, the sheriff said. Earlier that evening, Dennis and another relative got into an argument after the relative came by the home and banged on the front door, according to police. When Bergen later arrived at the home to surprise Dennis, he banged on the back door without announcing himself, but Dennis thought Bergen was the relative with whom he had previously argued and opened the door while armed. The sheriff said that Bergen jumped out of the bushes as a surprise, and Dennis fired one round from a .380 semi-automatic firearm and struck Bergen in the heart, instantly killing him, according to Johnson. Dennis will not be charged in the incident, said the assistant state attorney Amber Rowland. And as a reminder, I have to say that Florida is a stand your ground state. So, we've been having a lot of cases where people have been shot and killed in Florida and have not been charged. It's one of those states on my stay away list. I have a few states that I refuse to go to, and Florida is one of them. Tyshawn Lee murder trial. Dwight Boone Doty found guilty. Chicago, after a few hours of deliberation late Thursday night, a Cook County jury found a man guilty of first-degree murder of Tyshawn Lee, a 9-year-old boy who was shot and killed in one of Chicago's most horrific crimes. Jurors found Doty guilty of murder in the first degree for shooting the boy in the head after promising to buy him a treat. Boone Doty led the boy into an alley and executed him in a gang hit that shocked the nation for its brutality. Boone Doty and another man, Corey Morgan, were tried before separate juries. Morgan's jury was still deliberating as of last night. Several members of the boy's family held hands as the court read the verdict. Upon hearing the verdict, they began crying. A third man involved in the murder, Kevin Edwards, has already pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in exchange for a 25-year sentence. Tyshawn Lee's life is over, way too short. Although his life is over, his story isn't, State's Attorney Greg Engelford told the jury earlier in the day during the closing arguments. It's an ending you get to write. It will never be a happy ending, but it can be a just one. Tyshawn was a fourth grader in November 2015 when he was killed by gang members to send a message to his father, an alleged member of a rival gang, prosecutors say. The killing was seen by many as underscoring the viciousness of warring factions in Chicago. Over the past 2.5 weeks, the jury has borne witness to the horrifying details of the child's execution-style murder, with testimony ranging from police and family members. After school, on November 2nd, 2015, Tyshawn was sitting on a swing at the park down the street from his grandmother's house when a young man approached him, dribbled his basketball, offered to buy him a snack, and then led him to an alley where he shot the child several times at close range. An execution-style shooting was an act of revenge, according to prosecutors. Members of the same gang believed that a rival faction had killed Morgan's 25-year-old brother and wounded his mother a month earlier. This is a retaliation. Morgan and Boone Doty were angered by the attack and wanted to get back at Tyshawn's father, Pierre Stokes, who was also an alleged gang member of a rival gang. So Boone Doty struck up the conversation with Tyshawn and led him into the alley. Shell casings at the scene of the crime and the associated gun would eventually be linked back to Morgan and his brother Anthony Morgan, who purchased the gun from a man in New Mexico. So far they're not saying how much time that he's going to be getting, and that they haven't done that part yet. But this guy executed a 9-year-old kid. It's real crazy stuff going on out here. Diahann Carroll, pioneering actress on Julia and Dynasty, died today at age 84. Diahann Carroll, a captivating singer and actress who came from the Bronx to win a Tony Award, received an Oscar nomination and make television history with her turns on Julia and Dynasty, died at age 84. Carroll died at her home in Los Angeles after a long bout with cancer. Her daughter, producer, journalist Suzanne Kay, told The Hollywood Reporter. Carroll was known as a Las Vegas and nightclub performer, and for her performances on Broadway and the Hollywood musicals Carmen Jones and Porgy and Bess, when she was approached by an NBC executive to star as Julia, a widowed nurse raising a young son on the comedy. She didn't want to do it. I really didn't believe that this was a show that was going to work, she said in 1998 chat for the website, The Interviews, an oral history of television. I thought it was something that was going to leave someone's conscious in a very short period of time. I thought then let them go somewhere else. However, when Carroll learned that Hal Cantor, the veteran screenwriter who created the show, thought she was too glamorous for the part, she was determined to change his mind. She altered her hairstyle and mastered the pilot script, quickly convincing him that she was the right woman. Carroll thus became the first African-American female to star in a non-stereotypical role in her own primetime network series. Her character, Julia Baker, whose husband had died in Vietnam, worked for a doctor at an aerospace company. She was educated and outspoken, and she dated men played by Fred Williamson, Paul Winfield, and Don Marshall, who was successful too. We were saying to the country, we're going to present a very upper middle class black woman raising her child, and her major concentration is not going to be about the suffering in the ghetto, Carroll noted. Many people were incensed about that. They felt that African Americans didn't have that many opportunities on television or in film to present our plight as the underdog. They felt the real world suffering was much too acute to be so trivial as to be present in the middle class woman who was dealing with the business of being a nurse and raising a son by herself. But we were of the opinion that what we were doing was important, and we never left that point of view, even though some of the criticism, of course, was valid. We were of a mind that it was a different show. We were allowed to have this show, and that was a positive show. A lot of you young people don't know anything about this show, and so this is like a show from way back in the 60s. But who knows? Now that she passed away, maybe they might bring it back. She also played she got Oscar nomination for playing scrappy title role in the movie Claudine in 1974, playing a Harlem woman on welfare who raises 6 children on her own and falls for a garbage collector, James Earl Jones. The part was originally given to our dear friend Diana Sands, but when Sands, who had played Julia Baker's cousin on several episodes, was stricken with cancer, she suggested Carroll take her place. The producer said, "How can she do this role? No one would believe she could do it." Carroll said, "I remember the headline in the paper, 'Would you believe Jackie Onassis is a welfare mother?' The very coupling of the name Jackie Onassis and Diahann Carroll is very interesting if you think about it. Their question was, how do we make anyone believe that she has 6 children, and to be nominated for an Academy Award to do that, it was the best." She got nominated for Academy Award for the role of Claudine in the movie Claudine, and it was a pretty decent movie back in the day. All right, rest in peace, Diahann Carroll. Rest in peace.
Time for the news, baby.
It's Friday.
Time for the news, baby.
Time for folks to get on out there.
Time for the news, baby.
Get on out there and do your
Time
thing.
for the news, baby.
It's Friday. It's Friday. It's Friday. The weekend's here. The weekend's here. Get some fresh air. Peace.